You are listening to Radiant Creators, a collaborative project composed of people whose passion, purpose, and dedication requires forging their own unique path of empowerment and livelihood. A Radiant Creator isn't making a living, they are living.
Welcome home, Radiant Creators. We've got VP back on the show of NoNonsenseForex.com. He's got a new book out, No Nonsense Forex Trading Psychology, and it really truly could be called No Nonsense Forex Zen Trading Psychology. This is deep stuff. This may appear that it's just about trading, but it's not. Stay tuned, listen up. This is truly about living a passionate life. In doing that, learning about yourself and creating something. And ultimately, if you're meant to make the world a better place, it's gonna be through your passions and having a strategy for life so that you can measure your progress. Yeah, I know, I said it, a strategy. I said it, having a plan. Well, it's important, and it really is our gateway to everything we want in life. As Jocko Willink says, discipline is freedom. Sit back and relax. This is truly a great experience that we had, and it's all about living a powerful life. And we start off asking VP why he dedicated an entire book to trading psychology.
Because I would tell people before, look, the top three for me is trading psychology, money management, and then further down the list, you're going to have your technical analysis. Those are really the three pillars to me. Those aren't the three pillars you're taught, but that's one of the reasons why everybody loses. So out of those three, psychology to me was number one, because without it, none of the other pieces you put in place even work. So you spend all this time putting the technical analysis bit in place, back testing, real life testing, all of these things. But if you don't have your psychology nailed down, none of that stuff even matters once it's time to actually sit down and trade. So that's a book that really had to be written. I wrote it the way I talk, because that's the only way I know how to communicate. And it seemed to resonate really well. I was concerned that it wouldn't, because there's going to be people who don't know me or don't know my channel reading that book. So they're unfamiliar with the way I come across. But so far, so good.
I'm glad it's doing well. So right now it's a Kindle on Amazon. Do you have plans for a paper version of that, and or how about an Audible version that you were reading?
Yeah, so no to the Audible. I wanted this to be a book that you actually read and digest the content that way. Besides, a lot of what's in that book I've already done on YouTube as a video where I speak, for free. So it's all there already. I didn't want to do any kind of repeat of that. I just ultimately wanted this to be something you digest by reading. So as far as an actual book goes, yeah, that is in the works. I had heard that if you have Amazon do it, which they will, it comes out pretty low quality. I've had other people say it doesn't, but I'm just kind of sitting on that for now. And I'll decide down the road whether I want somebody else to handle the actual publication version of it and then put it on Amazon, or if I just want to have Amazon do it themselves. But I just want to get the book out there. I'd taken longer than I wanted on it. And it's like, well, let's just make this an ebook for now, then I'll fill in the blanks, down the road.
And that's one of the things you mentioned in the book. You mentioned the great news, however, is how at no other point in our planet's history have people, regardless of where on the spectrum they may fall, had the chance to become financially free. The bad news is all your excuses are gone now. And so you did it. You made the book and you got it out there, and you weren't waiting for all the details. So I kind of like that, because it's out there. We can all work with the Audible. I'm sorry, the Kindle version of it. It does lay out pretty well, so it's good to go. And something I love about the Kindle that people might find helpful, if you don't know this trick, you can always click on most favorited and most highlighted sections, and especially for VP's book, it lays it out really well. And you find out that if you wait till you're done reading it, just highlight what you want to highlight, and then look at that, you'll find that what resonated for you probably, actually, I noticed, resonated kind of for everyone else. And so I wanted to go over some of those things that I highlighted. I noticed a lot of other people highlighted too. And this is something I think is really important, is if you can master one thing, or get good at one thing, it kind of helps you at everything else in life. And like a musical instrument. If you put that dedication in, the harder you work at it, the better you get at it, kind of the more you learn about yourself, and you get better at life in general, everything. And so I find that for me, and one thing I like about your channel that I resonate with, it seems that really trading is a great way to get better at life. I mean, because the better you can get as a trader, really, it's just like becoming a better guitar player. You're going to get better at every aspect of life. Does that sound possible?
No, I think you nailed it, because so if you master something that so few people master, but a lot of people try to master and fail, you learn so much along the way that you can just replicate into every other aspect of life, because you had what it took to get to that point. Most people who have far more talent or time or aptitude than you didn't make it, because they just lacked certain things that you developed along the way. So if you're able to look back and reflect and do a good job of that, you can pinpoint those things that took you from, terrible to good, and then from good to great. And then, yeah, you're right. Just take that and apply it everywhere. It's a great little lifetime skill to have.
Yeah, it seems like, for me, one of the things that's definitely helped with trading is just tenacity and humility for myself. I'm an idiot, but I keep after it. Just keep after that tenacity. And also definitely being always willing to learn. Like, I don't have it figured out yet. I never stop getting better. So I look at myself when I started like 3 years ago, and I look at myself now, and that's a whole different evolution. That's somebody who couldn't even play a chord to somebody who can even do some lead now on the guitar. Big difference. And I'm definitely better at everything in life for it. Well, during these crazy times that we're in right now, doesn't matter really where you look or what specifically we're talking about, everyone's life is a little bit harder than it was a year ago, probably for most people. And something that you mentioned in the book, a line is, long-term Forex trading rewards the tactical and royally fucks over the emotional. And that's true. How do you feel about self-control, being tactical self-control, having a plan? Is that essential? Of course, we know that it is, but how is that essential to trading and life? Because right now, if people don't have control over their emotions, I think they're just bound to be fucked over emotionally. Because right now, this is a time to be tactical, maybe in every aspect of life.
Yeah, but being tactical is harder, so people don't want to do it. They prefer to just react to whatever happens, because that's far easier. They can spend their time where they would have been tactical and learned something and applied it to, whatever it is they enjoy, their leisure time. That's the path most people choose. I'd said it before, Craig. I think the 2020s are going to be absolutely horrible. I think we're going to really pay for the excesses of the past. I think all of this is going to come crashing down. Some countries are going to feel it worse than others, but I think everybody's going to feel it. So if that alone, or just the possibility of that alone, doesn't propel you to buckle down and figure something out, and to learn something that can keep you afloat for the next 5-10 years, then when the time comes, I'm not really going to feel sorry for a lot of people who had the chance to do it but didn't, and they're suffering. I'm not going to enjoy seeing it, but at the same time, I'm like, you could have done something, especially if you're the head of household, that falls on you. That is your responsibility to make sure that you and your family are okay, regardless of what's happening in the world. And I think so many people just submit to whatever's happening. I think they do it too, because especially in the Western world, it's been so good for so long. Even when it's bad, it's not that bad. And that's all we're used to where I think we need a really bad period to happen for us to get the picture and say, okay, we need to take action next time around. I just hope it's not too late by then.
Me too. Yeah, definitely. 2020, like you mentioned in the book, is going to be, well, it already has been intense. And I think that the end of the year, especially as we go into the election cycle, will only be crazier. And you did a video, and I'll link to it in the show notes, that I was sharing with everybody that I know, that it is good to, 4 days before and maybe up to 4 days or more after the election, just hold, just get in cash and wait it out and see what happens. And that's something that I notice in life people are having a very hard time with right now. Everybody wants to fight the system, or they want to help the system, or there's a lot of passion, a lot of emotion, and people want to do things. And the notion of, hey, have you ever considered tactically, this doesn't make you a coward, just chill out.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny when you take that approach, you realize just how much you're unlike everybody else. I'm going to pull this up real quick. I just liked a tweet from crazy John McAfee, and he said, and he nailed it if I can find it. Oh, it's probably buried now. But he said he's been through 15 different elections, and not one of them affected one hair on anybody's head. All they really did was shift power from one group of elites to another. And if you really look at it, it's kind of true. There are things that governments passed that affect us, but a lot of those things would have been passed regardless of who was president at the time. And I don't like getting too political with this, but at the end of the day, it's you being emotional about it and tweeting and taking any kind of action politically is not really going to move the needle at all. So just don't. It's hard because especially now everybody's so emotional about this election, unlike we've ever been in the past. When I would travel, people would make fun of me for Americans not really caring about the election process and not voting. I'm like, trust me, you don't want to see a world where the Americans actually care. And now we're here. So it's a mess. Half of those people, I'm not going to say half of those people, most of those people are still going to be miserable when it's over with. I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm going to sit back, let it play out, and then let it play out as long as it needs to, and then take action accordingly. It's really that simple.
I liken it to being a goalie. If you're a goalie and playing soccer and somebody's running up to get the ball in, that's all you can do is focus on that, the immediate moment, and how you're going to stop them from doing it. And I think that's a good way to look at life, where be ready, be regal, be tactical, be ready, because in the end, yeah, it's just you. Like the economy that matters on a certain level is just the economy of you, especially if you're head of household, like you're saying, and you do have control over that. And I think McAfee's great. We interviewed him on the show, and I think we did one of the cooler interviews that anyone's ever done with him. And I think it was pretty fun. And the idea of Americans caring, well, there are oftentimes you'll see it a lot in internet memes about like the Great Awakening, and I like kind of a modern day philosopher, Thomas Sheridan. He said, he says you wouldn't want people to wake up. Have you looked out there? But when it comes to being tactical rather than emotional, if we could back test that like we do trading strategies, most people would find that the less emotion, the more success. But we just don't have the ability to back test it. But you could back test it mentally and realize how many emotional decisions have you made that actually really panned out. Not many.
I tell people to do that too. I'm like, think back to every dumb decision you made and tell me that emotions were not the key driver of that decision. Anytime we, broke the law or said something we shouldn't have said to a loved one, or got into a bad relationship and stayed there longer than we should have, those were all emotional decisions. And if we would have just, you have to make those decisions, of course, because that's the only way we're going to learn from it. But, if we were able to rewrite history, if we were just able to take those emotions out of the picture, life would be a lot different. So, it's hard telling somebody, hey, don't be emotional, when everybody's emotional and these emotional times come. But just know that the right answer is normally you using your head instead of your heart. As dry and unsexy as that is, that's usually the move 99 out of 100 times. If you just remember that, I think going forward, you'll be less apt to make those snap decisions down the road, and maybe that'll help you out. Who knows? I've already kind of been over on this side of the fence for so long now. And it's done me really, really well. I don't even know what it would be like to go back to my college days, or that time right after college when I was super insecure and, just mad at the world and just acting out. I'm lucky I survived and made it out of that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm speaking from a place to where I'm so far on the other side of the fence now. I can't even relate to those people anymore.
Well, the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, it mentions the three modes of being, so the three modes of life. And the first one's ignorance. Most people have no idea what's going on. Then the second is impulsivity. People who do kind of know right from wrong, but they usually do the wrong thing. And then they call it goodness. And to think you're in the goodness stage, where
I feel like I
it
am. Yeah, I feel like I'm doing a lot of good right now. So yeah, it's
yeah, because it can almost sound a little bit dispassionate and impersonal, but it isn't. It truly is goodness, because ignorance and impulsivity, well, back test those and let's see how it pans out for you. Well, along those same lines, something that you did mention in the book, a great line, you mentioned you can be your normal, wonderful self most of the day. But when it's time to sit down and trade, you no longer get to have this luxury. The switch goes off. You must morph into a cold, calculated, heartless robot. And I would say goodness is not necessarily heartless, but having a good plan that works is really essential. So if we do look at trading specifically, most people don't have a plan or any kind of a structure. And it is important, of course, that we develop that. And it's great if we have good teachers like you to help develop that. Everyone's is going to probably be unique to themselves, but they can test it and see if it works. And Lord Kelvin, this crazy guy, he had a great line. He said, "To measure is to know." And so it seems that if you don't have any kind of a structure trading that you have documented and that you can say, this is how I do it. And then you can measure that, does it back test? Does it work? And then also right now, is it working? Are my trades working? It seems that you think most people in trading, but probably also in life, they just don't have a plan. So therefore they don't really know, they have no way to measure the success of the moment. Am I doing well? Am I doing not? Because I just don't have a plan. I just show up every day and I just do stuff. This looks good. I'll buy that. And then it fails. But it just seems like it would be essential that people would think of this, but really most people are going through their trading career, wherever it might be at, or their trading hobby, or their life with no plan. Therefore, they have no idea how to measure their success or failure rate.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak ill of those people, because a lot of times they'll find my channel and they're like, "Oh shoot, I do have to have a plan," and then they realize it, and then they either follow it or they screw it up. But you're right; most people just wing it. I talk all the time. I talked in the book about the 99.9% fail rate, and it's because 85% of those people don't have a plan to begin with, and the other 14.9, have one but they don't follow it, or the plan is faulty in so many areas. So yeah, I guess just realizing it is such a key step. You have to be a little bit careful there too, though, because I did say this in the book. You can't have a plan to where you say, okay, 2 years from now, I'm going to be here. 4 years from now, I'm going to be here. Because that creates desperation where you don't need to be creating desperation. I used to set goals like that too, and then I would never hit them. And so then I would get upset, and then I would overcompensate to try to hit the next goal. And that just made everything worse. So it's a balance. You have to have a plan, but you also have to be chill and kind of let things happen organically, because it's really the only way. I think people that have plans put these rigid rules in place and these milestones that they must hit. And if they don't, either they give up, or like I did, the next time I set a goal, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. And in trading, you can't do whatever it takes. You can't will your way to success. You gotta be a robot and follow a plan. And it took me a long time to figure that out. So that's why I tell people now, I'm like, look, if I didn't tell you this, you're probably going to make all these mistakes, and it's going to take you a really long time to get to where you want to be. You're probably going to get frustrated, and you're probably going to quit. So just don't make those mistakes to begin with. And it's hard. It's like we're talking about right now. I'm wagging my finger saying, don't be emotional. Well, it's not that easy. You can't just sit down and turn off the emotions of the day like it's a switch in your brain. It doesn't really work that way. But if you just work at it and you get into that habit, eventually it will come. So I'm really talking to people that aren't expecting anything to happen overnight. This is the long game we play. It's going to suck at first. You're not going to be able to do it no matter how many times I tell you. But if you just keep at it, it will become habit to you over time. And then, like you just said before, it's almost like once you get there, you can't imagine what life was like before. And I'm hoping people get there because, like you also said, you're bringing up a lot of good points, Craig. Like you also said, once you get that proficiency and you get really good at one thing, you get to carry that over into everything. And it really is a great place to be.
Oh, it definitely is. And I think that this is a great time to be, hey, getting better at trading because, like I was mentioning, with the global craziness and probably the financial situation for the world not being on the up and up for a few years, most likely, this is a great time to, yeah, get better at trading or whatever kind of business you do because it's essential. You're going to have to be better than you have been to continue and to win. Well, something you mentioned was ability to play the long game is a superpower. And I really like that. That's a line out of the book. Ability to play the long game is a superpower. Believe it, because nobody out there has any patience whatsoever. And like you were saying, if you can get into that robot mode of I have a system, a plan, I test it, I see is it working, is it not working, and I'm just going to keep at it. It's almost like you're playing the long game by trying to perfect the day, if that makes sense.
No, you're right. You have to take small steps to get there. You have to take it day by day, especially at first, because this is brand new territory. But really, when it comes to Forex trading, and I say in the book too, it's the market of the poor because you have a 50-to-1 leverage in the United States, and it's much higher than that in some other places in the world. So for every dollar you put in, you get 50 in the game. And that's appealing to people that don't have a lot of money. Now, people who don't have a lot of money that want to use trading and investing to all of a sudden, get out of their situation and have a lot of money, don't realize that this is going to take a very long time to do. So it's really why I harp on it, especially in Forex. People in stocks already kind of have money. They can just kind of play the stock market and put their money there for a while and let the chips fall where they fall. Forex traders do not have that same mentality at all. They never get in it for the long game. They get it for the big wins. They get it to vault themselves out of a bad situation and into a good situation. And they think this process is going to take, 1 or 2 years tops. And that is crazy. You have to get this out of your head first. And if you're still okay with the fact that this is going to take a while, then this is something you're built for. But if you cannot embrace the long game, then you shouldn't be doing anything with your money. You should be giving it to somebody else. That's probably actually your best move. As much as I don't advocate financial advisors, that's better than you holding it because making money is not an overnight thing. No matter how many times you see somebody on YouTube do it, you're going to find out soon enough that it's not going to work when you do it. It probably didn't even work when they did it, but let's just say it did. You're going to find out the hard way. Most people do. And a lot of those people end up on my channel down the road. So I'm like, all right, well, if you listen to me now, I'm telling you, don't make that mistake to begin with. And then you'll start this game with more money than you would normally start with if you had just taken the time to hang on to it and learn first.
Exactly. And it does seem that there's aspects of learning anything, but I'll mention trading specifically because it's something that I'm new to a few years in, and is that some knowledge, some wisdom is what it really is. It just takes time. There's no way to accumulate it without making the mistakes. There's no way to accumulate it without just spending time on it. I guess that's why we're supposed to respect our elders, because they've had time to do everything wrong before us. They screwed it all up and they can speak from an authority at least. Don't make the mistakes that I did. But if you have a plan like you're mentioning, so, VP has a trading methodology. And if you were to follow that, or you edit one for yourself that works, whatever you glean from different systems. But if you have that plan and then you measure it, well, then that long game becomes much more possible because at least you can measure. You can say, am I on the way to where I want to go or on the way in the opposite direction of the way I want to go? And I can adjust. you know. And one thing I've noticed, maybe you've noticed this too, have you noticed YouTube? Of course, you've noticed YouTube, but here's one especially, since I mostly trade in crypto, is that one of our worst enemies, I think, is YouTube. And it's also one of our best friends because, well, VP's on YouTube, but also, especially in the crypto world, whenever Bitcoin goes up 1% or down 1%, here comes the YouTube emotional posts of, oh my gosh, we're going to the moon. It's the new world's currency. If it goes up 1%, if it goes down 1%, oh my gosh, it's over. It's done. Oh my. And it's like, I think that most of the crypto universe out there on YouTube is just screwing everybody, because I would say yours and very few others actually come from a non-emotional technical standpoint. Most are just literally every day. It's drama up or drama down.
Yeah, and as a video creator, I don't totally hate them for that. It's a really crowded space. It's a very enthusiastic space right now, and they have to compete. So, as some of those creators say, they got to keep that hopium bong full. Anytime something good happens, they have to. They can't take a pragmatic approach. That doesn't sell. That's not what most people want to see. And so if Bitcoin goes up 5% in a day, and somebody like me comes on with my make-believe crypto channel and says, okay, well, this is good, but let's keep our emotions tempered here, I'm going to completely get drowned out by people who are saying it's going to go to 10, it's going to go to 100,000, because at the time emotions are high, and that's what people want to see, videos which foster their own emotions. And a lot of these guys have committed themselves to making like one video per day. That's hard to do. I would never put myself into that corner, but these guys have, and so they gotta put those hype videos out every once in a while too. I think there's a few channels I follow, and even though they all do that, I really pay more attention to the information they give when Bitcoin's not moving at all, because I think that's where you get the real good information in terms of, like what DeFi projects are going on right now, anything that's going on behind the scenes with Bitcoin, if any other money's coming in, any kind of technical analysis, even though I don't think their technical analysis is very good. It's good to see their perspective on it. That's really what I'm watching. But I think crypto YouTube is just really the nature of the beast. I think it's kind of clowny what they do, but it's a survival tactic, and I'm not totally mad at it.
No, I get it, because when you put that headline out, like, Bitcoin going to the moon, or Bitcoin or whatever, or JP Morgan now changes their mind, whatever. Yeah, it does get those views. I mean, definitely, like doing this show, as I play with different show titles, I can tell you that yes, I mean, your show title can be worth a lot of traffic. So in fact, I think actually there's a good business idea for somebody out there: explosive show titles, episode titles. That would actually be how we used to do SEO, back in the day to optimize search engine traffic. Now you could actually optimize views with sensationalist titles.
You have to. It's part of the game. Even my biggest video is my big banks video. But I didn't call it Big Banks because I was doing the research, and that didn't rank very well. But what did was #1 Forex trading strategy. And so as a brand new channel, I got to make a scene. I got to get views. I can't just, start the game in obscurity. So I had to get a little bit, markety with my titles early on. That's real. I tell people too, the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad was going to be called The Economics of Education. But Robert Kiyosaki said, well, if I did that, I wouldn't have sold 3 books. So yeah, titles do matter. You just have to make sure whatever you're talking about matches the title, or else you're going to come off as a fraud. And there is an art to that. You're right. But in a sea of videos, you have to stand out somehow. So I'm still to this day careful with my titles. I make sure that the title matches what I'm talking about. I have the thumbnails that are super easy to see. They're very distinctive. That's me. And that is one of the reasons. It's not just the content. The content keeps them there, but you got to get them there first. So that's a real thing. And once you're on the other side of the coin as a creator, and you see these things, you don't get as upset at them. You understand why they're doing what they're doing. It's very competitive. You really have no other choice unless you just want to stay obscure your entire life.
Exactly. I like that. And yeah, I definitely, when I look at it, I think to myself, yeah, how could I do that? I wonder, I think, like, do they have some kind of a random like show image generator? Because I look at it and go, that must have taken a while. You were cutting and pasting and moving things for quite a while. It's like, so yeah, there would be a business, somebody who made show titles that were like the new SEO, basically getting traffic, and then also show graphics for the show that grabbed the eye. So I think really that's kind of our new, that's like SEO 3.0, I guess you would say. And it's something to master. Well, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I love the book and I love the guy. Listen to endless of his stuff. And yeah, you're right. If he had called it what he was originally thinking, there wouldn't be a Rich Dad Poor Dad. No one would know who that guy is.
No.
You know, yeah. You'd be finding his book like used at Pal's Books in Oregon. Well, so one thing I wanted to mention as we go through is that line that we already went over, but still, the great news, however, is how at no other point on our plan's history have people, regardless of where on the spectrum they fall, had the chance to become financially free. The bad news is all your excuses are gone now. And I think that even though we might be going through a difficult time in the next year, 2 years, however, in the future, it looks like things are getting difficult. They already are on some levels economically, both local and global, but still, you've got the ability to generate wealth during that time. And I think that's definitely something that you're trying to get across on your YouTube and also in your book, that, hey, the economy of one, you can still master regardless of what the universe is doing, but you need a system that works that you can measure.
And you need to stop wasting your time and put it in place now. And I think so few people are going to do that for the reasons we spoke about before. There's no real urgency. Like, we can kind of see the writing on the wall that things are going to get bad, but they never have. As bad as things have seemed, in our lifetimes, they've always been okay in the end. Therefore, we're just not motivated enough to take the little time and little money we have and really put it towards anything. It's so much easier just to kind of cross our fingers and hope it ends up being okay, just like it always has. I do get that. But in the end, there's really no downside to taking this approach I talk about. Let's just say that we're wrong about the 2020s, and the 2020s are okay, even really great in some points. Well, you still have this lifetime skill to where you can still take advantage of really good markets, just like you can take advantage of really bad markets. There's no reason not to do it. You just have to ask yourself, do I want things to get better? And do I want to be helpless to whatever the external world throws at me? Most people don't. Yet they just don't have it in them to take that step. And there's nothing I can do about that. I'm really speaking to the people that are interested in taking that step. I'm not going to sit there and try to fearmonger them into taking action, because a lot of people at the end of the day just aren't. Or some people are going to pretend to and then kind of half-ass it and then fail and then find a way to blame you for it. I don't want to deal with those people either. So really, the people I'm talking to, it's not everybody. It's people who are already kind of halfway, 3/4 of the way to this mindset, as we speak right now. And that's all I can do.
Yeah, because this is the time. And I agree, here in America, it's always been good. I mean, like during World War II, it was good for the people who were on this continent. They weren't necessarily suffering, even though there might have been some ration cards and things like that. It's always been good. And so, and especially with the media always screaming about it's the end of the world yesterday and it's going to be even worse tomorrow. So stay awake. Oh, wait, no, don't be awake. It's bad for you. So you've got this hysteria always being thrown at you that it's the end, but the end never comes. So people just go, the end's not coming. I don't believe you. But I'm not saying the end's coming, but this is definitely a time to, have your own financial sovereignty. It is possible, and it's possible regardless of what the market does. I think sometimes people forget they get defeated because they don't know that every day, no matter what the market does, there are some people who won. And you can be one of them. So in your book, you mentioned something. This reminds me of content creators. I guess it really was about content creators. Actually, you didn't mention this. I mentioned this. Sorry about that. I got it backwards. Just do it for yourself, and the exposure will come if you deserve it. And I think it's something you touched on in the book, but you didn't say exactly that. But I think that's really important. Just do what you do because it's the thing you do. And if you earn it, if you deserve it, that exposure will come. And it seems like that was a ideal you had when you created your YouTube channel and you started creating content. You were just doing it because you felt that it was time that you wanted to help people, and you didn't know how well it was going to do. But the important part to you personally was that you did it.
Yeah, I mean, how else are you going to know? I mean, I would hate to go through life knowing that I could have put this, I could have put no nonsense Forex out there, but I just found a way not to. I mean, that's crazy. All it cost me was time, and I have time. So it's like, why on earth wouldn't, there's so many people that really don't have a lot of time that still make it happen. Now I've talked to YouTubers that, have 200,000 subscribers, and they said the same thing. They're like, when I started, I didn't expect this to go very far at all, but I just wanted to put it out there and do it for the people who were like me and understood where I was coming from. And maybe I can help those people. That's really kind of our end game. We didn't expect things to go as well as they did. We're not these delusional 12-year-olds with their Minecraft channel that think it's going to go to the moon. We just wanted to get it out there and see what it did. And that's really all it takes. And I've spoken to so many people who want to start channels and they're just afraid to. What they don't know is we were all afraid to at some point. We all had reasons, even those who kind of operate with a lot less fear than others do. I'm probably one of those people, but I still had concerns too. Putting yourself out there for the entire world to see and to open yourself up to all that criticism is not, an easy sell. But if you have something, you still have to put it out there. And if it fails, well, guess what? You can delete it and then people will forget about it over time. I can't, being where I am right now, it's tough for me to envision somebody not pulling the trigger on some of these things. You just have to do it because the worst thing you can do, it's like Gary Vaynerchuk said when you're talking about, people, at more of an advanced age, when he goes to nursing homes and he's talking to 90-year-olds, they only talk about the stuff they didn't do. They never talk about the mistakes they made. They talk about the things they never had the chance to do. And I just could not imagine going through life wondering what could have been. I had this whole great idea for a channel. It was a brand new way of doing things that nobody ever saw before. I talk about things that need to be said but never are. And with all of those things, I mean, I would be miserable right now if I just kept that in my back pocket because of the fear of what people might think. I already knew a lot of people are going to hate it. They still do. but for everyone that hates it, 50 people like it. And that's all the validation I need.
Exactly. And that's something I find really important when it comes to being a content creator is that, hey, why don't 20 people mean something to you? And it's something actually Gary Vaynerchuk said. He was like, yeah, sure, everybody wants to have a lot of followers. They want to have exposure. Let's say you have 10 followers. If you don't take them seriously, then you suck.
Yeah. No, you're right. Like if you had the chance to change two people's lives, how much, if like for the better, how much time would you spend on that? I would spend a lot of time on that. If I knew for sure that I was going to severely impact two people, two very deserving people that were willing to take the steps and do the things that I said, I would have made that entire channel just for them. That would have been time very well spent because how many people get the chance to impact people in that way? Just impact one person, much less, 2 or 3 or 10 or, in some cases, thousands. That's worth it. That is leaving your legacy and your stamp on life when it's all said and done, regardless if it's a little or a lot. So just aim for a little. And if a lot comes, well, then a lot comes. I think that's the way you got to look at it.
And really, being a content creator, having your channel, and or anyone else who's thinking about having a channel, whether you want to start it or you already have, I mean, right there's your Zen in the art of motorcycle maintenance. Your Zen in the art of content creation, because really, like, there's a place where you'll learn a lot about yourself. Like if you have trepidation, I don't know if I want to be out there, just do it, and then the next step will come. It's a beautiful thing. Once you start it. And if you want to be a content creator, all you need to do is one blog post, one video, and you've just joined the team. It's really that simple. And its value, the value of your content, will decide its exposure. But you know what? Here's the thing. If a person wants to be a content creator, well, then if you start doing it and you have that framework and you have, okay, this is what my show is about, this is what my content is about, I put it out weekly or bi-weekly or monthly, you know what? If you start it and you have that framework and that vision, that mission statement, then you can measure. Then you've got something you can back test in a way. If you know what I mean, you can start saying, hey, is this working? Is this providing the value? You know, is this the expression that I want? You have some way to measure. And that's the thing. If you never create it, not only did you never do it, but you never got to actually see if anybody cared. You never got to measure it, because, you know, the thing is, as you measure it and you look at what you're putting out and you look at the feedback you're getting, everyone's vision changes a little bit. I think everything that we begin to create kind of takes on a life of its own, and then you kind of see where it's going. I mean, have you found that your channel has, you know, gone in directions that you didn't plan?
A little bit. I think most people would answer that question with a definitive yes. Mine, you know, I've kept it pretty consistent. I think that's my own arrogance. I'm like, I think I know what's best for this, so this is what I'm going to do. I don't really react with the comments too much. It doesn't have heavy weight on what I do next. Like anything, you know, the channel has evolved over time, and I'm sure the audience has been a part of that. But for me, not as much, but definitely yes. I just think it's to varying degrees. But what you said before, you only really learn these things by doing. You can learn a lot by reading and consuming content, but you'll never know just how much those things you learn apply to you until you actually get in there and do it. And yeah, you're right. You learn so much just by doing. And that's why when I talk to people who don't really do anything, they seem to really struggle with a lot of aspects of their life, because they still really don't know exactly where they're going wrong. They don't think they're going wrong anywhere, yet they're still miserable and they're not in a place in life where they want to be. And it's just really hard to talk to people like that now. Before it was easy because I was one of them. You know, we could all, you know, cry in our beer together. But now I just feel like I'm on such the other side, and you almost feel bad that you can't relate to these people anymore. But they've gotten to the point to where it just doesn't matter what you tell them. And these are the people that are really going to have a rough time going forward when, you know, their country and their lifestyle is not what it was before. And I'm really concerned we're going to see that this decade. Not to bring it all the way back to that miserable topic, but it all ties together. The people that are getting out there and doing things and learning things about themselves and trying to get better are generally going to be in an okay place no matter what, because they can adapt. They now know what they're good at, and they can use that. They can use that information to propel themselves forward. To where most people who are afraid to pull the trigger on anything are just never really going to know how they can get themselves out of a bad situation, should a bad situation come. So I guess to tie everything we're talking about together, that's really, you know, how I think about it.
No, it's perfect. And yeah, a line in your book that I thought was great is you mentioned you owe it to yourself to find out what you're truly capable of when you are clear-headed and at your best 99 to 100% of the time. And that's really, to me, one of the best aspects of life is when you actually can put 99 to 100% of your effort, you know, part of the day into something that truly is your passion. And that is where you're becoming better as a human being, and your whole life is getting better, and you're helping people. And something I was reminded of while you were talking was how one of the most peaceful spiritual guys I know, Ollie Demigard, that we talked to on the show, he's actually a fighter. He likes to get in the ring and box. And you would think this little monk who just sits there and meditates and levitates, you know, and he's like, I tell you what, you know, getting punched in the face, you really learn a lot about yourself. And he's like, the harder the better. You got to get out there in life and do it. And I think that's one of my biggest passions, is to be able to have, you know, something in life that I can put 99 to 100% of my effort into and measure and see, oh, look, I can adjust and say, okay, this is working. And really, I don't want to call trading a hobby, but I will for a moment. You could call it a hobby. You know, how many hobbies are things that you can explore and you can get better as a person, and you can maybe help the world on an extended in an extended way? Do you actually make any money at? You know, most hobbies just cost you money. I mean, I love making model boats, and I love playing guitar, and I and I love mountain biking, but all that is a monetary expense. I don't make any money doing that. I mean, life experience has a value, but it costs money. But I think trading is beautiful because it is one of the few, I'll call it a hobby, or Zen practices, you know, Zen in the art of Forex trading, that you can measure your progress, your perfection by profit and taking losses gratefully.
Yeah. And I love how you're transitioning into everything I'm wanting to talk about. This is great because that line right there that you quoted in my book um, mostly had to do with what I just talked about right before that line. And that was me getting rid of smoking weed and cutting my drinking down a lot and getting my diet right because you might have had all these things you wanted to do, but if you were in poor health, you would have a really hard time getting those things going. And I wasn't in like horrible health, but I wasn't in very good health. And I was doing a lot of things to myself that were getting in the way of having the motivation to start up all these things I wanted to do. So that was really key, you know, and that's something I never really talked about on the channel. I really brought it up in the book for the first time. And I've gotten so much positive feedback over that to where I'm like, God, I thought these things were obvious, but apparently they're not. Apparently, a lot of people are like, you know what? I really do wake up every day not wanting to do much, but the things which make me comfortable. So, that's, watch Netflix, play PlayStation, you know, drive to this place, things that don't involve any kind of physical activity. And then I wonder why I just can't pull the trigger on any of this. So that's big. And then bringing it back to what you were saying about how a lot of hobbies don't make money. Well, that's fine. A lot of times they keep you healthy. They make you good at something to where you learn a lot about yourself afterwards. That's good. But everybody needs to get good at money. I say money and food are the two things that affect everybody. So you cannot afford to be subpar in those things. And so if your health goes south and your finances go south, that's really on you. And, not to bring it back to this, but this decade's going to really challenge that. And the cream's going to rise to the top. So you might as well get on board now, because I'm not going to feel sorry for the people who let their health and their finances suffer this decade when they could have done something about it. I'm not going to enjoy their misery, but I'm not going to feel bad for them either.
Yeah, nothing is hidden right now. So we definitely know how to take care of ourselves. And I like that you had that chapter in the book, Health is Wealth, because I think it's really important. I often find it really odd when you see, like, I was up at a house at a party here in Scottsdale, up one of the houses on top of the little mountain where they like shaved off the top of the mountain. They kicked out all the ground squirrels and the coos deer, and they put a big mansion thing on it. And so I cruised up there, and what did they have for food? It was Kentucky Fried Chicken, and this and that. And they had all this like fast food and such. And I was thinking, like, man, you guys have, I guess, made it. You're on top of the hill, and this is good. You're financially secure. You're just done. You're good. You got that covered. But like, I would not trade my intestines for yours in a second. No, I would not. I wouldn't trade your wealth for your body. And that's a weird way of looking at it, but really health is wealth, and it's so important. And I'm glad you went into that in the book, because I think it is essential, because I think most people, who are happy and healthy and wise, look at that kind of American statement. There's that old statement. I don't know where it came from, but that old saying, fat, dumb, and happy. And I always thought, who made that up? That's awful. I want to be happy, healthy, and wise. And so really that can be a struggle for people. But I do find that most people who are, let's say, entrepreneurial, who are, want to make their way, who are creators, I'm not sure what to call them, but the more motivated a person is and the more they're creating, let's say creating wealth, trading, really they have a high performance body. It doesn't mean it has to be like, you don't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, but it does seem that if your body is a boat anchor that you're dragging along, it's just going to be hard to really ever create much momentum for any passions in life.
No, and I was always a smart kid, but I found myself doing a lot of kind of dumb, brainless things on a day-to-day basis. And it's really frustrating. I'm like, why am I still doing all these absent-minded things? And it's like, well, I do feel pretty crappy all the time. There's that. Maybe I'm focusing on that, not focusing what I need to focus on. That's a real thing. And it's funny that the guy in the mansion gave you guys KFC. It kind of makes me think, there are rich people out there that want to keep everybody else down. That is a real thing. There's not a lot of them. But it's like the line in There Will Be Blood, that Daniel Plainview said. He said, and I'm kind of going to butcher his name, even though it's my favorite movie. He said, I have a competition within me. I want no one else to succeed. And I've met people like that. That's a real thing. They want to be rich and they want to keep everybody else down. They're only happy when they're the only wealthy person in the room. So I'm not saying that was that guy's motivation, but I certainly, if I was in that mansion, I would not be serving people, KFC and just having them be on the toilet all night. But that's real. And the health aspect is very real too. I just noticed such a difference when I finally, and I was always fairly health conscious. I was just still making really silly mistakes. And I had to go out and learn what those mistakes were. Like I go with a fairly ketogenic diet, not like strict keto, unless I'm really trying to lose weight. But I eliminate a lot of sugars, and I'd always done that, but I was also eating a lot of corn, and because there's not a lot of sugar in corn, but it turns into sugar after I eat it. I didn't know that. So just like little things like that, you learn along the way, and then you make the changes and you're like, wow, this is much better. And then you just keep doing that until you finally get to a place to where you're like, all right, I like this lifestyle. I'm eating food that I like. All the food that I got rid of, I used to like, but I really don't crave it anymore. Crazy as it sounds, I haven't had a pizza in 3 years and I don't care. You're like, man, why wasn't life like this before? It's like, not that I didn't want it to be, I just kind of didn't really know what to do. So, use the internet. It's out there. If you're not feeling good about yourself, but you still feel like you're eating well, you're probably not. You just got to find out where those mistakes are being made. That was a big thing for me. I can't tell other people how to do it really because everybody's body is different. But I do know once I got the sugar out of there, man, everything really started to turn around. And I woke up every morning just wanting to attack and pounce on the day. And that is not something I'd ever experienced before. So I would bang the gavel a little more on that. But I just don't feel like it's in my wheelhouse. So I don't, but since we're talking about it, yeah, that was really one of the big changes for me. And when you have that tailwind behind you every day, all of those things you might have been fearful of starting, you're not so fearful anymore. You actually want to start them and see where they go. It really makes a difference just having that base level health behind you all the time. Love it.
Yeah, it's like you want to crush life, but you also really love sugar. Yeah.
Yeah, the punchline is when you get rid of it, you don't really want it that badly anymore. And there are ways, like, if you have a moment of weakness, there are things out there to where you can substitute them in and still not have that sugar addiction. Sugar addiction is very, very real. And Big Food knows that. And they've done a great job of telling us that we need these things in our body when we really don't. And that just makes it harder. So once you're on the other side, you not only realize how sugar was the devil this entire time, but you also get really angry at all those people that even through your childhood, all the cereal commercials we used to see in the 80s. This is part of a balanced breakfast. And it's like 36 plates of carbs in one sitting. You actually think that's normal and what you should be eating. And, no wonder we turn into sugar junkies later on in life because, we got started so early. It was hard to break, but once I broke it, I had no desire to come back, and I still don't.
In your book, you mentioned almost everybody in this almost everybody in the U.S. back in the 70s was slim, and now in the 2020s, almost everybody's overweight. And I'm not sure if people were thinking about it in the 70s any more than now. Food, just in general, what was in front of them was healthier. Like, I went to an Elks Club here in Scottsdale, and it was an old one, and they had all the Elk Club leaders, all the way back to, like, I don't know, back before the roads were paved. And I realized that, man, everybody was healthy. Like, they looked good until it started going wrong in the 70s. Kind of like American cars, kind of went downhill. And so, yeah, happiness, health, and wealth is really important. And I would say that for success and to have that passion so that you can take risks and that you can learn new things, you got to lose the traditional American fat, dumb, and happy and trade it for the, happy, healthy, and wise. And I've had you for a little while, and I just want to wrap up mentioning, and I can't, I just screwed up and I don't have the quote in front of me, but you mentioned taking risks. There's a great quote in your book by Mr. Zuck about taking risks, and it's really, really important. But when you mention taking risks, they always are somewhat calculated, and that's one thing you can learn through trading is you never risk it all. You never put it all in one trade. There's some calculated nature to it. So really, as we get happy, healthy, and wise, and we have that passion in life, it does allow those risks. But how do you define those risks? Are they calculated, basically?
Yeah, so the quote said something to the effect of how the biggest risk is taking no risk at all, which is absolutely right. And that's the reverse of what we're taught, growing up. We're usually taught to be pretty fearful because our parents are trying to protect us, which is fine. But you realize when you get older that risk aversion has to go away and you have to start making moves. Now, to your question, once you decide that a risk needs to be taken, you have the internet at your disposal. You should go there and figure out what you're trying to do, find people who have already done it, and learn the mistakes they made so you don't make them. You're going to make enough as is, at least avoid the really bad ones. And you can do that now. It's a great time to be alive. So that's the best way to approach it. Take lots of risks. Do whatever you can to minimize the risk factor, and good things will happen. And you have the ability to do that now, and it's very easy. But that's the blueprint.
Yeah, like you've said, there's never been a time where you could make more wealth, where everyone, no matter what their standing is, no matter where they're coming from, everyone is capable of generating money and wealth at this point in history. But of course, the downside of that is you don't have any excuses. And the truth will always set you free, but first, it always pisses you off. And I definitely invite people to, especially if you're a trader, but it doesn't matter. This all is actually transferable to any passion you have in life, any interest you have in life, or just life itself. Hook up with VP's channel on YouTube. We'll link to it in the show notes. And, get better at life, get better at what you do, because VP has really put out a tremendous amount of content that helps us do that exactly. And like our first interview, I call it The Game is Beatable. Well, this is The Game is Beatable Part 2. And I think if you're listening, you can beat it. And is there any last thoughts, VP? And also, I want to ask, do you have a Discord channel? You mentioned that in your book.
I have a Discord channel, but it's really for, and I should have said this before, I made such a mess of things by not saying it. It needs to be for people who have already consumed all of the material. We're having a real problem with people coming there and not quite knowing what we do and looking there for answers when all the answers are right there in the video. Yeah, I do. I have a link to the Discord forum and all of my later podcast episodes, which can also be found on YouTube. So I would just say, know it's there, but don't join it until you're done. And you're gonna have a while before you're done. So go to the channel first, and if you're interested in it, learn Forex that way. And then once it's all said and done, if you still have any questions left over, that's what the Discord forum is for. And it's super helpful, but it's only helpful to the people that already know what they're doing. Now, I guess I would just wrap it up with the Zuckerberg quote. I mean, it's the only risk out there. People think, taking risks is a bad thing. No, not taking risks is a bad thing. It's a really bad thing. And we are going to see that in spades this decade. So whatever moves you think you need to make, now is the time to do it, since we're at the very beginning of the decade and we see the writing on the wall. And the upshot is that there is no downside. If you get good at something and things are still good, well, now you're really good at something. But you need to get good. Food and money are the two things that you cannot be bad at, or it's just going to radiate in everything else you do. So get on it now. The resources are out there. My channel is one of them, but there's plenty other ones out there too. But just take action and get going.
All right. Well, thank you, VP, so much for being on the show. And I hope we talk to you again in the future. I hope that book keeps printing. Actually, I hope that book gets printing as soon as there's a printed copy available. I know I certainly will have one. Thanks for being on the show, VP. Everybody, go check him out. Thanks a lot.
Thanks again, Craig. We will do it again, and I'll let you know when that book is printed. You'll be the first.
You are listening to Radiant Creators, a collaborative project composed of people whose passion, purpose, and dedication requires forging their own unique path of empowerment and livelihood. A radiant creator isn't making a living, they are living.